The first prank and the next one, that was a nice weekend. I don't know if I can share it exactly as it happened, but he liked it and I was there.
If you want to know how hard they fought over the weekend, you just have to look at Markus Söder and you can see he's had enough. How much coalition conflict there is by now is clear from this press conference. How many steps the CDU had to take toward the SPD again just to get anything through at all. The mood is really boiling over, I have to say, if you want to support this channel. If you want, I would be really happy about a like and a subscription. Now let's take a look at the press conference together, because I can tell you nothing is left standing.
There will still be some really tough obstacles to overcome.
Just look at the Chancellor's face. He looks completely stunned. Of course, we'll go over each individual issue here in a moment, the ones that are really bad for us, or where there are actually some relief measures, but that face, I could look at it forever.
We need reforms urgently, but not ideological debates. We need real reforms.
I think someone here is really angry. I brought that up right at the beginning before we dive into each individual topic, because the Chancellor's face reflects everything that's about to come up in the video.
The first prank and the next one follows right away.
He didn't seriously just say that, did he? These are the people who keep everything running here. So, I really have to say it, he spat in his face with what he said. Why? We'll clarify that in this video. And I really have to say, making statements like that is the worst thing you can do when this country really has serious problems. And then to come around the corner with such, I really have to say, half-baked relief measures.
That was a nice weekend. I don't know if I can agree with that 100%, but it was a productive weekend. He liked it, I was there. Will there still be tough challenges to tackle?
Just look at the Chancellor's face. He looks completely stunned. Of course, we'll go through each individual point here in a moment, the ones that are really bad for us, or where there actually are some relief measures. But that face, I could look at it forever.
We need reforms urgently, but not ideological debates. We need real reforms.
I think someone here is really angry. I brought that up right at the beginning before we dive into each individual topic, because the Chancellor's face reflects everything that's about to come up in the video.
We have made concrete decisions. First of all, we have decided on immediate aid in light of rising energy prices, and at the same time tackled two major reform projects. That's the public health insurance system, and of course we also dealt with the federal budget for 2027. And finally, we have agreed on a tax reform for lower and middle income groups starting January 1, 2027, and the details are now being worked on intensively.
So, if they're working on it now, I mean, if they've only just started working on it, are we really going to be presented with any real details right now? Or are we going to be told again, no, the public can't know about this at all, because then it would lead to war again? What he's saying here is basically, yes, we're working on it, but we're definitely not going to tell you anything about it.
The most important thing, first of all, is that we have decided on relief for citizens in light of the rising fuel prices. We will reduce the energy tax, which is the mineral oil tax on diesel and gasoline, by about 17 cents per liter for 2 months.
Who is approaching whom here now? I don't mean that it would really bother me, not that it wouldn't be the case, not that I wouldn't be happy about it, but once again, it's exactly what the SPD wants that's being done, and not what the CDU wants to implement. Of course, I'm happy if I can fill up for 17 cents less, let's be honest. I don't know how you see it, feel free to write it below, but if I have to pay 17 cents less per liter, I have to be honest, then my fuel prices are below 2 euros. But whether that will really happen, now you have to get down to business and tell us exactly when that will be.
Weitergibt. I said last week that we would wait for the political developments. Yesterday, Iran and the U.S. temporarily broke off negotiations on the ceasefire. The American president has announced a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. As a result, oil prices have risen overnight to over $100 per barrel again.
So they were forced. However, up to this point, he hasn't said a single word about when it would actually happen. Only that maybe the oil companies shouldn't just add the whole thing on top now. Although I also believe that the oil companies can't afford that at all right now. Let's be honest, what they increased was really just the risk premium, a full 50% of what we actually noticed. Because they still don't know when they'll have enough again for, well, let's say the entire economy. And that's exactly the point he just made again. Donald Trump is now blocking the Hormuz Strait, so nothing is getting through there anymore. Not even with tariffs or by bribing Iran anymore.
At the same time, it's true that we can't offset every outcome in the markets with government resources. That's why we limited them to 2 months. The government can't absorb all uncertainties, all risks, or all disruptions in world politics. The government, after all, is all of us. What we take from our budgets is missing elsewhere. That's why this support is limited to 2 months.
Hold on a second. These are additional revenues that the government wouldn't have had at all without this crisis. People out there really need to be told this. What they're losing now, well, they wouldn't have had it anyway under normal circumstances. And to stand here now and say, yeah, we can't offset this because of these crises, yeah, we can't counteract them and only Donald Trump is to blame, that's not true. These additional revenues, even though they've gone down now, they still have a solid surplus. So please, why do they always have to feed people such lies? I really wonder about that.
Avoid increases that would otherwise occur by making appropriate adjustments to the services offered. We want to avoid contribution rate increases on the expenditure side.
And instead of saving elsewhere, it's now affecting families and the people who really go to work. Let's be honest, who really goes to work these days after the whole COVID thing if they're completely congested or have stomach pain or nausea? By the way, this will motivate people even more to go to work, to be sick, and to infect even more people. Now, the family project at home, so to speak, will die out if they implement this because hardly any mother can afford to just stay at home with the children anymore. That, and I could go on and on about it, but I'll do that in the next videos once I've really done some deep research on who is actually affected by this. Especially the health insurance was actually, I have to say, that's great. It's stupid to really go in there now and force people even more to work and to burden others by having them get infected by their colleagues.
Of €1,000, which we want to enable employers to pay out to employees tax-free and free of Social Security contributions. Such a bonus will therefore receive preferential tax and Social Security treatment.
Back then, that only affected employees, while employers didn't benefit from it. Retirees didn't benefit from it either. So why? It's the same thing they've told us before. We don't want to just spread the money around indiscriminately. Once again, it only affects the people who actually go to work and everyone else is completely left out. This definitely doesn't create any incentives to work. Why? Why not? Well, because these bonuses that are being paid out again don't give employers any incentive to hire more people, since those people would probably be left out of these bonuses again.
Such a payment would also be a relief for employees' wallets in light of rising gas prices. A final word on the income tax reform. We have agreed that we will discuss and prepare it intensively in the coming weeks. It is scheduled to take effect on January 1, 2027. With this, we are fulfilling a promise from the coalition agreement. And one more word about the automotive industry. We had a very intensive discussion about the future of the combustion engine. Yesterday, we agreed on the German position regarding the CO2 fleet emission limits. We agree that we reject the tightening of the CO2 standards for hybrid vehicles that was planned for 2027. This concerns the so-called utility factor. Specifically, this means that we will avoid a downgrade of hybrid vehicles and other technologies in environmental classification. There must not be a cliff edge for these important technologies, so now we are really moving forward with a fully technology-neutral approach in further development. That's the discussion in Brussels. We have just agreed that cars powered by renewable fuels, such as advanced or next-generation biofuels, will be considered zero-emission vehicles. And with a whole range of other instruments for calculating fleet emission limits, we are significantly reducing the economic burden on the German automotive industry. So we are going in here with a really very good position, which, by the way, is identical not only to the position of the automotive industry, but also to that of IG Metall, who in recent days have once again urged us to make further adjustments here. We are going into the negotiations united and with determination with exactly this position in...
Wait a second. IG Metall said something completely different. IG Metall said that bureaucracy should be reduced, so what has just been created should be urgently dismantled. But IG Metall has also said several times, so he doesn't need to come up with such nonsense, that you should put something like that at the very end, but that you should really focus primarily on occupational safety and of course on work solutions and wages. And for that, on the other hand, you urgently need to reduce the reporting requirements. And not just fiddle around a bit with the carbon tax and a bit with the automotive industry. Instead, they have made it very clear that completely different things should be the absolute focus, which he once again did not address there.
And beyond that, also tighten antitrust laws again, because it's hard to explain why prices here in Germany are different from those in other European countries.
That means Germany collects far more in taxes than all other countries in Europe. I think Belgium is still a bit more expensive than Germany. The Netherlands is about the same, and so is Austria. And the fuel prices here in Germany are so abnormally high because we have the most taxes on everything. It's a very simple story. You don't have to go and try to muddle through it backwards and say, why do the oil companies actually make just as much profit in Germany as they do in other countries? When he just said that, I felt sick to my stomach. He can't be serious about that. Telling us that now we also have to frack here in Germany. Just listen to that for a moment.
Talking about how things can't go on like this if we just go under gracefully and do nothing here, even though we have plenty of gas. Attention.
That can only mean one thing, namely that they're now starting with the test drilling and it's happening right above where I live. Things like that make my stomach turn again. I live right on top of an absolutely huge fracking field. And it's been said several times that doing this isn't just really harmful to nature, but also that we can't even rule out what consequences it might have. For example, what effects it has on groundwater, and we all still remember the USA, where someone held a lighter to the water pipe. And fracking hasn't even gone that far yet in the USA. Their entire areas have been evacuated, and in Belgium they've already done it too. There, people really talked about climate disasters, which were then, let's just say, simply hushed up afterwards, because money was used to cover them up.